Killing a person ain't no big deal. Just put the gun to their head, pow.
A trigger warning for the mentioned topics. And spoilers if you haven't played the game. Eddie Dombrowski is a fictional character from the video game Silent Hill 2. Although he's not the main character, he is a supporting character alongside Angelo Orozco. James first encounters him in the Woodside apartment. In a cutscene, Eddie is throwing up due to his shock of seeing the dead body in the fridge. Upon James finding Eddie remarks, "It wasn't me, I didn't do it."
It wasn't me. I didn't do it.
James is confused on what he means by "I didn't do it," but if the implications weren't clear enough, he means he didn't kill the man in the fridge. We'll put a pin in this later and we'll come back to it. Let's talk about Silent Hill, the town itself, while we're here. This town isn't just any regular town. If you've played through the first half and you've only just gotten this far, by now you've probably seen the monsters that haunt Silent Hill. The figments of James' nightmare. The lying figures and mannequins roam the halls of the Woodside apartment buildings. These are manifestations of James's guilty mind. Some of the monsters symbolize Mary and or James. But you're wondering, what does this have to do with the town itself? And well, the reason why the monsters are there is because the town itself is trying to punish James for something that is explained later on in the game. And the only way to progress to the town itself is puzzles and wounds. James's wounds. Yet James isn't the only one here in Silent Hill. There are various characters, including Angelo Orozco, Laura, Maria, and Eddie himself. But for right now, we're talking about one character. The only character that I might have actually understood in this whole game, alongside Angelo Orozco. During the second cutscene with Eddie is with Laura in the bowling alley. Eddie seems to be just fine as he talks to Laura about what he did. After Eddie denies being a robber or a murderer, Laura calls him a gutless fatso. Her remark doesn't seem to sit well with Eddie.
What'd you have to say that for?
Although he's curious about her playful jab, deep down it might have hurt him. Although he tries to brush it off by continuing their conversation, something else gets brought up as well. Laura says, "If you did something bad, why don't you just say you were sorry?" To which Eddie says, "It's no good. They wouldn't listen. Nobody would ever forgive me." So let's talk about Eddie's past. Before he came to Silent Hill, he used to work part-time at a gas station, and within the novelization of Silent Hill 2, Eddie says his own life was shitty. He feels as if he's lost the genetic lottery, and due to the fact that he was severely bullied during his high school years and after he graduated, his torment never ended, constantly being ridiculed by a football player from his high school. Constant torment affected Eddie's perspective on himself. Although Eddie doesn't say anything about himself early in the game, there's implications that he's insecure about his body later on. Which leads us to our next topic, how bullying and body dysmorphia go hand in hand. Body dysmorphic disorder, BDD, or body dysmorphia, is a mental health condition where a person spends time worrying about flaws in their appearance. Certain factors can increase the risk of developing or triggering body dysmorphia. This includes bullying or childhood teasing.
But it wasn't my fault!
It's heavily implied that Eddie may suffer from body dysmorphia himself, which is why he acts the way he acts. It's his own response. On another note, I may have picked up a little something from Eddie's behavior from the game so far, and I think he may have something else other than body dysmorphia that he suffers from. In all honesty, this is just my opinion, and I don't know if I'm wrong or not, but I think he may have a little bit of autism. He gives off some kind of childish aura, like like he's reverting back to like his younger self of when he was just a boy living with his father, Mr. Dombrowski. But mind you, I may just be like reading too much into the character or something like that. He does give off some kind of like juvenoia, I guess. Mind you, in the Silent Hill HD collection, his age is implied to be like 23 or something like that. But now I think it's time we discuss what happens later on in the game. Spoilers ahead if you haven't played all of the game. After you jump down a hole in the Toluca prison, you find Eddie. He's just sitting there with his father's revolver in his hand. Mind you, in the first two cutscenes we see of him, there is no weapon present, so he must have hid this pretty well. Yet that friendliness seems a little tense, like in the cutscene. He says killing a person ain't no big deal, just put the gun to their head and pow, he says. Now something is definitely amiss, even if he's joking or not. James accuses him of killing the man on the table, to which Eddie denies and attempts to defend himself. The blatant implication that Eddie killed somebody out of retaliation definitely makes his reasoning unsettling here.
That guy, he had it coming. I didn't do anything. He just came after me. Besides, he was making fun of me with his eyes, like that other one.
Remember that pin I told you to remember? We'll be coming back to that right now. So the other one that Eddie might be talking about is the guy in the fridge. And remember what I said about how this town is trying to punish James? The town might also be trying to punish Eddie as well. There's a bit of his story that I left out for a reason. Eddie's tormentor, the football player from his high school, kept ridiculing him. Eventually, he got to a point of where he took his father's gun and shot his dog in retaliation. And after Eddie did that, the football player came out and Eddie shot his leg.
Then he came after me. I shot him too, right in the leg. He cried more than the dog.
It's unknown if the football player ever survived after Eddie fled, but there's confirmation that it's the same guy over and over tormenting him still as he's in Silent Hill.
What does it look like? He always busted my balls.
You fat, disgusting piece of shit, you make me sick!
You make me sick! Fat ass, you're nothing but a waste of skin! You're so ugly, even your mama don't love you!
This is Eddie's breaking point of where he starts to believe that he's like, oh, maybe all these horrible things that people say that I am, maybe I really am. And in the one room of where you're supposed to fight him, he starts recanting all of the stuff he's heard from the football player. Mind you, he's still human. He doesn't attack you on sight just yet. You're still in the cutscene. However, all it takes is James starting to question him if he's gone nuts. I think Eddie might have mistaken James' weird friendliness as like some sort of form of friendship that he thought he could trust. Someone he thought he could be vulnerable with. Mind you, James hasn't ever called Eddie anything at all. And by any means, he doesn't mean any harm by anything he says, or doesn't even mean to imply. However, Eddie cannot see past his blind rage. He thinks James is the same as the football player. And this is where you have to fight Eddie in the meat locker. The other world meat locker. If the implications weren't clear enough, this is how he sees himself. Unfortunately, his nightmare is mixing with James's, and yet the only way to progress is by killing him. This is a problem for Eddie himself. This is a problem because Eddie cannot seek redemption for what he did. He can't change if he doesn't want to change.
Eddie? Eddie? I killed a human being. A human being.
And now it's time for me to spit some facts and stuff in your face. Did you know that his death was more violent in the novel? I'm not even lying, his death is more graphic in the novel than it is in the game. Which reminds me, in the dog ending, when Eddie comes up and Mira's there, Mira will be visibly upset. This is an obvious nod to the dog in his story. So Eddie's last name is Polish. I don't know why I added that, but I felt like it was like pretty important to add. Also, according to Ito, Eddie only killed the dog, but the rest of the bodies in Silent Hill that are affecting Eddie, those are like fucking delusions, like holy fucking shit. I feel like I've been gaslit into thinking that it was the fucking football player. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this video to be so long. I didn't expect to ramble for so long about my favorite character from Silent Hill. Anyways, cue in water outro ending song.